and welcome to the 294th episode of Sports on the Hill podcast. My name is Robbie. I am here today, joined by Gil, the blue liner on point. How are you doing tonight, Gil?
Not too bad, Robbie. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, for sure. We're also joined by Cheryl Ann Forrester, which we affectionately call C4. How are you doing today, C4?
I am doing quite well. Thanks for having me on again. Always a pleasure.
Yes, this will be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of really cool topics to talk about. I want to thank Champ at the start. He's one of our moderators. He's also coming on the podcast in just a little bit, but he also just subscribed to the channel for 12 months now on Twitch. So for 1 year, which is awesome. So I really appreciate him for subscribing for a year. We don't have a lot of people that have done that before. So that's really awesome. I appreciate that. So I hope that you enjoy the emotes. We also have a Pokemon in chat. We've got two horrible blowout games going on right now that I will mention real quickly. The Wizards are getting blown out 121 to 101 by the New Orleans Pelicans. And then in this football game at halftime, Georgia is winning 38-7 over TCU. So those were games I was going to do like scoring updates and was going to be super excited about it, but yeah, we're not gonna, I mean, we'll address them, but I don't think that they're gonna be a lot of that in the hockey talk. I apologize for some of the technical glitches early on, but I think that we are live on all the different platforms right now. I'll be sharing the Facebook one in just a minute. Yeah, I'm just thank you, Tina French, for resubscribing. They subscribed for 4 months now, so I appreciate that subscription as well. So Jonah is in stream too, and so is Carly. And Carly just subscribed for 21 months. So that is the longest subscription on our channel. So I appreciate that. And my dad is joining in on chat as well. And my dad said, I'm proud of Robbie and his family, and I'm excited about the Caps. So thanks, Dad. I appreciate you for tuning in. We got to watch a lot of hockey games on our trip. So as people know about the podcast, we've taken the last couple of weeks off. We will go back in history for some of this show, including talking about the last couple of weeks for the Commanders, the Wizards, and the Capitals. We'll do almost an hour-long show just about the hockey. We'll quickly go over the previous couple of weeks while I was away, and then we will focus more in on the last week or so, and then we will preview the upcoming week as well. So I'm excited to have Gil and C4 talking hockey with me. So that'll be the first part of it. We'll talk about the Commanders and how they lost 3 in a row to fall out of the playoffs, but then beat the Cowboys yesterday in a game that didn't matter, but obviously 8-1 is a winning season when you beat the Cowboys. So I know that it looks like 500, but it is very much more than that. I know Cowboys fans will taunt that they're in the playoffs for at least a week, but we shall see how they do against Tom Brady, who are lifetime they are 0-7 against, and they have not won a road playoff game since the 90s. So we'll see. Maybe that all changes for them, but I was just happy that they beat the Cowboys yesterday, as I am anytime since I've been a Commanders, a Washington football team fan, or a Redskins fan before that. So that was good. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the NFL playoffs and preview 6 really exciting matchups that are coming up. And then to end the show, we will quickly go over the Wizards' last couple of weeks because it wasn't great. And then we'll preview the upcoming week for them to end the show. It will be an extra long show. It is the winter season premiere of Sports on the Hill podcast. So it's season 7, the winter edition. And then episode 294 overall. We're climbing towards 300. So just in about a month and a half or 2 months, we'll hit our 300th show, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, lots to talk about tonight. Gil, it's been a very exciting time to be a hockey fan. I mean, in the games that we're going to be discussing, Ovechkin has broken all sorts of records, and we've had the return of 2 of my favorite Capitals. We've got Nicholas Backstrom over here, and we got Tom Wilson over here. And I was hoping that Anna could join us because Tom Wilson fan and all that sort of stuff. She's on injured reserve tonight herself, but she'll come back and definitely talk next week with us, I am sure. But I'm so happy that our two favorite players came back on the same game number 43 for the Capitals, which I thought was a great idea by the Caps. And yeah, so oh wow, a hype train. This is like people who are listening on Facebook are like, what the heck is he talking about? But there's a thing called a hype train on Twitch, and people can celebrate by giving cheers or subscriptions. And because multiple people have subscribed recently, and Tina French just gave us 100 bits, which is a gift on the podcast. And it triggered a hype train. So we got 4.5 minutes for them to give enough gifts to trigger another 5 minutes, if for people that don't understand or are listening on the audio side of this podcast. But thank you for starting a hype train. I've only had one hype train ever on this channel in the last year, so I appreciate that, the tips and the cheers and all that. So a great start to the show for sure. I can't believe Georgia's winning 38-7. I thought I'd have more to talk about in that game. But Gil, what are your thoughts as a Caps fan and all these exciting things happening?
Well, I hate to be that guy, and yes, it is if you think about it, it's a pretty good time, but there's also, you got to consider a few things. There's a lot of season left, and as quite a few others in many Facebook rooms are quick to remind everybody, the Caps have played the most games. There are a lot of teams that have quite a few games in hand. But yeah, overall, yeah, there's great reason to be optimistic. Two of the best players that the team has are back in the fold, and like we mentioned this week on our most recent episode of the Power Play Point podcast, and before, the schedule is for at least the foreseeable future, for once, favorable to the Capitals as those other teams catch up. So this is a great time for them to start banking some points. They're already in a divisional position. So and the team's been playing better even without those two. So they've already got the momentum. So the only thing to watch out for, I guess, it would be complacency, and when the All-Star break hits and they hit that swoon that they tend to hit not long after because of having so much time off.
I actually think that adding these two players in at this time in the season, at the halfway point, this is often when we hit our slump, is going into February and these doldrums. And I'm kind of happy we have a resurgence and we get to work out some of their kinks in that time. And I was happy that we weren't going to go back in time and talk about the earlier games, but I was happy they were able to at least win that game, even if it wasn't a beautiful game, this last one, because you're injecting two players into the team and that could throw off everything. I mean, even though on paper you're playing against a worse team, you got two great new players adding it. Those are the type of games that other team, and the other team is mad, right? They just played us recently. They got their butts handed to them, and they wanted revenge. And so I was happy to see that they were able to, well, mostly because of our goalie, able to hold off and able to win that game. But Cheryl Ann, you were at that game. Just talk briefly about being there for the return of them, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about the other games.
Oh my gosh. I have never seen first of all, I've never seen so many people there early enough to watch warmups as I did that night. Everyone knew Willie and Backstrom were coming back. They came out on the ice. It was almost as loud as if the arena was full when they came out. Of course, everyone's snapping pictures, banging on the glass, the usual. But when they were doing the starting lineups, I think that's the loudest I've ever heard that arena, except for when Ovi got 801 and 802. I mean, It was just deafening. And every time they got on the ice, it was just, it was an experience. I mean, I don't have words to explain the atmosphere there. It was like a giant welcome home party, if you will. And the only thing that would have been better is if Duo almost scored, but Elvis was actually playing the part of a brick wall pretty well that night. And
I was surprised
we can go to that in more detail later, but
I was surprised Yeah, we'll talk about that game and we'll get into it. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in on Facebook as well. If people have questions, they can ask there. Let's just go through the basically where we last left off. We had a birthday special, and it was awesome. They won that game in Seattle, and then they were able to beat Winnipeg on Sunday 5-2, and then we were going into that Chicago game. And that Chicago game, gave Ovechkin. He had the hat trick, to get to 800, which was pretty impressive. Just an incredible game. I'm so happy that my friend Zach from some of the Caps groups was able to be at that game. And he always goes to the Chicago game every year, and he's been on the show in the past. And so I was happy that he got to be there, and they scored early and often in that game, 2 in the first 8 minutes. It's kind of like everyone was talking about how all the shootout or all the games prior, it was all, with the goalie pulled, he had been scoring a bunch. Everyone's like, oh, that's all he's going to do to get to Gretzky's record is, win with the empty netter. But Ovi wanted to prove early in that game that he has a lot more, and still left in the tank. So he scored 2 goals in the first. We had 2 goals in the second, and then he scored his third at 6:34 in the third. And I thought it was really classy of Chicago to celebrate it with him and cheer for him. And I know a lot of Caps fans were at that game, but it was just a really cool thing. Gil, what are some of your thoughts about that game?
I really enjoyed that game. Chicago, unfortunately, not exactly having the best of seasons. So you knew there was a chance. You knew, there was actually a very good chance that was going to happen. And, and he did not waste any time. It was, we dread the games on the national TV, but I think it was kind of appropriate that this was a nationally televised game, and he didn't waste any time. Of course, the carrier didn't quite do the moment justice. So we won't get into that too much. Won't waste too much time with that. But
it's a good point that I do. ESPN's coverage of that game was pretty awful, because that was still back when I was still home and I watched that game, and I thought that they just did terrible. Oh wow, Dugenet is in chat, who usually is on the show, and he's taking the week off because he's a fan of college football, and he's a fan of Georgia. So they're whooping, so he's a Go Dogs, and he said have a great show. So thank you, and I want to thank everyone again for that hype train. So I appreciate everyone for coming through tonight. But yeah, the coverage by ESPN left something to be desired, and it sucks because a lot of those guys are players that I really liked when I was younger, but they're not particularly great at announcing, and they're talking over each other and ruining their own moments, and they couldn't get out of their own way for a lot of that broadcast, which is a shame because it's such an important, iconic broadcast that people will want to go back and listen to. Yeah. Anyway, but I'm happy that it was in Chicago. I'm going to let C4 give her quick thoughts on it, and then we're going to move on.
Oh, what a fun game to watch. In spite of ESPN's coverage of it, I think I made a comment to you, Gil, that they really should not have old hockey players commenting on games, because they spent more time talking about their own past exploits and actually calling the game. And it's like, I don't care about what you did. It's
interesting because Locker played, but you don't.
But Locker's a different animal. He's been in the business long enough to know
not to do that.
I mean, yes, it's okay
when there's like a boring part of the game, but not like over,
Yeah, you don't talk over goal 800.
Yeah, or be like in the locker room for goal 1. I don't know.
I heard it. I missed actually. I
missed it live too because I didn't tune in quick enough.
But. Yeah, I was that a Monday night game? I don't even remember now, but I missed it because I was Tuesday, something going on. But Tuesday, okay. I had something going on at the gym, so I missed like the first 2 periods. But it was just like,
yeah, exactly. All right, so then the next one's Thursday, December 15th, Dallas. That's the big loss in that time period, which we always lose at home to Dallas, which we previewed that we would lose to Dallas. So it was very much.
Yeah, I'm not mad about that loss.
No, that definitely wasn't. If you're a Caps fan, you shouldn't be upset about how that game played out at all.
No,
no,
we
they were
played really
winning
well that
1-0
game.
going into the third, and obviously they got a goal early in the third and shifted momentum, and then got another one right away. So, but anyway, we'll skip that game. Toronto 5-2 on Saturday. On that following Saturday, so it's Gustafson, Van Riemsdyk, Gustafson again, Garnet Hathaway, and Gustafson got a hat trick. So that's impressive for a defensive player.
I think
And
he's only the third Caps defenseman to get a hat trick.
oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Gonchar and who was the other one, Gil?
Kevin Hatcher.
Yes.
Hatcher. There you go. So that was a good one. And then the next one, Monday, December 19th, versus Toronto. It was a 4-3 victory. This is a game where Detroit scored goals. We've had rough first periods a lot this season, but they scored 2 in the first. We scored 2 back, 2 from Nick Dowd in the second. In the third, they scored first. We were able to tie it up again at Gustafson. And then Dmitry Skorlov scores the OT winner with not a whole lot of time remaining in that game.
No, and the funny thing is, was it Dowd passed it to him? And then he scored off of a pass from Dowd. Was that it?
Yeah,
oh no, Johansson. Yeah, Dowd to Johansson to Orlov. Dowd
Mhm.
was already over the boards getting in for a line change when Orlov scored.
Yep. So that was.
He's like, I completely missed it.
Yeah, that's funny. Gil, any thoughts on that one, real quick?
That was that was a great game. Detroit, for some reason, is always a tough out, even though I really don't think they're that good this year. But I was glad to see them pick up the win. And that this I'm going to call the glass ketchup bottle game, because this is pretty much the game that started Eric Gustafson and how we know he's going to be now considered an offensive threat, a la a Sergei Gonchar. Ever since this game, which again was just pretty much his coming out party, he's been shooting a lot more, handling the puck a lot more with a lot more confidence, and just being that threat that nobody else knew he could be.
Yeah, we might have a real steal with him.
Yeah. So
all right, at Ottawa, I was a little bit worried about this game, but they sort of they gutted it out. Kuzi scores in the first, Milano scores in the second. It goes to overtime 2-2. Marcus Johansson gets the game winner, his 8th of the season, assists by Eric Gustafson, and it's a 2:04 in the overtime. C4, what are your thoughts on that one?
I was hoping we would win this game. I wasn't sure we were actually going to win this one, because Ottawa, again, is one of those teams that that plays tough with us. But always good to pull out a win. My memory is a little foggy because it's so far back, but
yeah,
it's always fun when we win, though.
Any quick thoughts on that one?
Unfortunately, I was traveling, so I didn't actually see even a single second of this game. John Walton's call, what I caught of it.
It's funny. I watched this game in the Cayman Islands, which is crazy.
Oh, that's funny. I did watch the game. I was watching it here at home, but I was kind of hoping Ovi would not score, because I was going to be at the game the next night with a friend. So there
you go.
I was kind of hoping after Detroit, I'm like, don't score. No.
I was in a moving car the whole time. We were on our way home from the Mrs.'s folks' house, and I could only hear John Walton's call, and I was surprised the Caps had such a tough time, because the weather in Ottawa was so bad. The Senators acted like they didn't even want to be there, and nice of them to pull out the win. Johansson, comes through again in one of his many moments. So I guess shame on us for doubting him, even though he's in a tiny bit of a tailspin right now, but I think he'll work himself out of it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these lines work out. It's just so nice to have someone like that, because he can play both wing and center and also do faceoffs. He's just kind of like, he plugs in when you need somebody, which I understand why people wanted to go younger. I get it 100%, but you don't have a lot of Switch Army Blade guys on this team, and you need as many as you can have to sort of plug holes when people are injured. And I think that he's a pretty good. I mean, he did well in the power play when we had a lot of injuries. So
Yeah, he did.
the next game is the Winnipeg game. This is the game where Ovi scores in the first, Milano scores in the second, Dowd in the third, and then Ovi gets an empty netter as well. And you said you were at this game, C4?
I was at that game.
So let us know how that was.
The crowd did not shut up all night. Ovi scored that goal, and it was just straight up loud the rest of the night. And then it was kind of funny watching the 802 was kind of funny because Kuzi was coming down on a breakaway to the empty net, passed it to Ovechkin. Ovechkin was thinking, he passed it back. Kuzi passed it back to Ovechkin, and Ovechkin's like, fine. He just kind of flipped it. I don't even think he tried, and it went in. And the crowd just, I thought people were going to charge. If we could have charged to the ice, we probably would have charged to the ice.
Yeah.
It was that kind of atmosphere. It was just.
Did you see the one where Ted reposted a video from a fan's perspective on the glass, which showcased this whole thing unfolding? I don't know if you've seen it.
I don't think I saw that.
No, I don't think I ever saw that.
Yeah, it is a great vantage point. I hope people go back and check it out. Ted Leotis actually has a really good social media account, and he shared some pretty cool stuff. So it was a fan showed about 3 rows back on the glass, right on that side. And as you're saying, Ovechkin, was kind of being held down. They didn't want to give him the empty net. They were like anybody but him. So Kuzi had a shot at it, but then Kuzi's like, hell no. And so Ovechkin still pinned in and like no angle, shot one of the most ridiculously tough empty net goals you'll ever see. I mean, there was like 2 guys on him, and he still was able to pitchfork it out of there and somehow dead center in, though. It wasn't like it barely.
Oh man.
It was pretty exciting, and I got very excited in the islands. The first goal I screamed really loud when he did it, which I scared my son. But like, I did not expect it, and I was screaming, "He did it!" So anyway, but so I'm super happy that you were there live, and that I got to I still can't believe that they had.
It's actually the second time I've seen you break a record, like the goal record, because I was there when he did hit 767 last year.
Nice. There you go. Got to get you there on those important games.
Yep.
Sorry, I quit out of what I was in to check something else.
Oh, that happens.
But so that was a great game. And then here, so going back, there it is. So we've got a bunch more games that we got to get to. So the Rangers, a 4-0 victory. That was a really surprising one. I just didn't expect. It's weird that we hadn't played the Rangers yet at all. But I did not expect us to score 4 goals. Johansson starting the scoring, and that one. Gustafsson getting his 5th, Eller his 7th, and then Connor Sherry got a short-handed empty net unassisted goal, which I love that.
Well, here, did you see what he did? Again, it didn't even look like he was trying. It looked like he was pissed off that he got hit by the puck and he was just flinging it down the ice.
Yeah, it was a really awesome game. Again, I'm happy that I was able to see it. Gil, what were your thoughts on that one?
Very surprisingly good defensive performance. All the matches previous with this team. All I remember was the Caps having all kinds of trouble containing their speed guys. I don't know if they've traded them away or if they've changed their philosophy, but Mika Zibanejad, not a factor. Keandre Miller, not a factor. Adam Fox, not a factor.
You know what? They played them like they played Calgary that one game where they shut down.
Exactly.
It's nice that they have it within them, like I understand that we don't get to see it every night, but even last night they allowed a lot of shots, but in key moments they were still able to make enough defensive plays, to keep them in it. So they've got the. I'm just gonna go quickly through the next 2, and then we're gonna flip the calendar. So Ottawa, we lost 4-3, which is a bummer, but it was sort of like a letdown game was bound to happen. We had just won 5 in a row. Montreal was in the classic rebound game, which was like
I was at that game.
That was a laugher. 9 goals.
I was at that game.
You talk about a New Year's Eve party.
Well, here's what's funny. That's the game I've done up with Will and Bacchus. But Ted Peters, Captain Obvious, was there too, and I was talking to him between the first and second period. No, yeah, between the first and second period, I was talking to him, and I was like, we were like, yeah, we're up 2-0. I said, yeah, I think and I said, we need to score 4 more. And he's like, it's going to be 6. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to get 6. And we ended up with 9. So there you go.
It really 10, right? I mean, it was almost like there was it's funny when we scored the first 8 goal and then it was called back and then we scored another goal that became number 8, I think, if I remember correctly. But I actually went out to go get sushi and dinner because I'm like, at this point, I was like, I think it's pretty safe. If they blow this game, I think
they're okay.
Yeah.
But Ovi scores another hat trick.
Right. So I did like also, I had to go back and watch that, but later. But like, it was good. I got to see fireworks, sushi. It was a great night. So I'm happy that I got to see a lot of those goals as well. And then the January 3rd game was against Buffalo. It was kind of a little bit of a letdown game. We'll kind of pick it up here, going more in depth. So it's a kind of a weird game, right? I mean, we're down, tied, get down again, come back and tie it again. We actually take the lead with an OV goal, and then they tie it at 11:42 in the third, and then Tage Thompson scores in overtime. And I might get roasted for this, but if we're ever going to lose a game and lose 1 point, this is the best way I think possible. The story of them representing number 3 before the game, scoring the 3rd goal of the game at 3 minutes into 3-on-3 overtime, his 30th of the season. It's an incredible story, and it sucks that it was at home, but like. The city needed some positive news, and I just I'm okay with it. I obviously want to win the game, but I'm not. There are some games I'm less upset about. Gil, what are some of your thoughts?
I don't think the Caps anticipated well enough. Well, for one thing, the emotional wave, even though totally different sport, but riding the emotional wave that the Sabres would over what happened with Damar Hamlin. And I think they had an idea that Tage Thompson is good. I don't think they had any idea he is this good.
Yes.
Yeah, he's really good.
And they didn't know before. They sure as hell know now.
And I'll have to say, shout out to your podcast, the PowerPoint Point podcast. I was listening to it this week, and you guys have a great show with 2 special guests. And so I hope that people click on the podcast partners button on SportsOTHP.com and download the latest episode. But I'm halfway through the show. I listened to it on the way home, and I like some of the stats that you were giving about this guy is a really player for the future, and they should build around him. And I think there's a lot to be had with him. So I was very impressed by his prowess, and I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, right, for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Buffalo's we give some lip service to Buffalo in the episode, and they're going to be a pretty tough team in years to come.
Yeah, and I think this year, if they keep going, they're going to have the potential to play spoiler for some people this year in the playoffs.
I don't doubt it.
People have been underestimating Buffalo for a while, and they're starting to say, "Hey, look, we're legit, and we're coming for you." So,
yeah, for sure. The next game is on Thursday. It's at Columbus. This is a great rebound effort. Johnny Hockey scores in the first, and things are looking bleak for the Capitals at the very beginning. But then in the second period, they seem to turn it on again. This has just seemed to be a common theme we talked about a lot this season on the show. So TJ Oshie ties it. I'm happy for Nicholas Aube-Kubel. Because he has some really bad defensive misgaps, but he is able to put the puck in the basket. So, like, some of it can be, anyway. But when there's a crunch for players, like, it's going to be hard to get a spot, and with the amount of key turnovers he has been having. But in this circumstance, he scores a goal. Then they score one back to tie it 2-2. I'm like, it's going to be a back and forth game. And then we really take over from there. Favari scores, and then Hathaway scores right afterwards, right at the very end. It's almost a Nugget minute. And to make it 4-2. And then the third, TJ Oshie scores a power play goal. His 7th of the season, assist by Dylan Strome, his 22nd assist. Kuzi's 29th assist of the season. Makes it 5-2, and then he gets his 30th assist on the next one, which is a power play goal from Obi, his 29th on the season. C4, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on that game?
Again, another fun game to watch. I missed part of it. I had something going on that night, but so much fun to watch, especially the end. And then seeing Oshie back on the ice was nice. I think that was his first game back, wasn't it, Gil?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was either that or the Buffalo game. But I
but
think
it was
you're right.
it was so good. It's good. I mean, Oshie makes a difference on the ice. My fear is though he's going to go, 6-7 games and get hurt again and then be out again. And that's just been my concern with him over the last year or so, but hopefully he stays healthy this time. And because he does make a difference when he's on the ice.
To answer your question, his first game back was the Buffalo game.
Was it Buffalo? Right. Okay. I knew it was one or the other, but I mean, just good to see him back and producing and,
No, but it's great. I mean, he is him and Nikki are the two heart and soul players of the team. The fact that we can get both of them back. I mean, I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, or now a couple of months ago with Gil. Like, it's missing those two players. You're basically the heart and soul of like the strength of your team, plus the two like hearts of the team. Like, there's 3 such core players, and the fact that we're able to keep it afloat without them, I think, is huge. I mean, most people predicted without those 3 players that we'd probably be 10 points out of a playoff spot.
Right. Well, it speaks well to the chemistry of this team and how well they bond together and how they connect with each other, even though we don't have Oshie and Wilson and Nikki, the fact that the team chemistry is still there, knowing these guys are still in the wings, says a lot about this team. It just says, this is a team, even, and I told Gil in a previous podcast, this team, even when they're losing, the chemistry on this team is something I have never seen anywhere before. And it doesn't matter who's on the ice. Yes, you want your core players, your best players on the ice, but just the fact that we have the ability, the capability, the chemistry to keep it going even when they can't be on the ice just says a lot for about this team, and is why I'm still a huge fan, even when they in the doldrums. So
I'm just so proud of the team for being able to be in this place. I mean,
exactly.
This is why we do this show, and why, Gil, you do your show, to be able to document this time period. We are so lucky to see it, and the fact that we can go back and watch these episodes or listen to the shows and be able to celebrate a Stanley Cup and and that whole, and the time period leading up to it. It wasn't like we just started then. Like, been covering it for a very long time, and the build up, and there's still the path to greatness that he has, still within him. And I want to be able to cover this whole run, obviously. And so hopefully, we'll be able to keep on doing this show season after season right alongside of him. And it'll be great someday for Zach to be able to go back and listen to, right. In generations to come. So, it's exciting. Gil, any other thoughts on the Columbus one?
No, not really. But I was glad to see Oshie come back, and not, he only needed a game to get in there, and once he was back in this game, he took it over, and so that bodes well for the 2 guys we just got back.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he'll take the other guys a little bit longer because he's played already some of the season, and injuries and out for a couple of games is different than starting your season. Especially, I can't imagine starting your season halfway through the season when everyone else has been conditioned and playing and already moving along. I know they've been playing along with them in practice for a while, but it's hard to simulate game speed and
very true.
So
I do think.
Georgia scored another touchdown. It is 10:52 left in the third quarter, right? So there's still a lot of this game left, and now they've gone up 44-7. I'm like, I understand there can't be a mercy rule in the national championship game, but it's just so funny because it's like TCU has always been like, we deserve to be in this championship game, and they've always gotten, somehow with one loss where it's knocked them out of it, and finally only a one-loss season, a 13-1, got them to the championship game, and they won a big game last week. But oh my God, playing an SEC team like this is just totally different. And
Yeah.
Georgia is a defending champion, and they just put the extra point up. So now it's up 45-7 with 10:52 left in the third
Oh my goodness.
quarter.
And we're not even going to talk about the Wizards.
Right. That game was lost, by the way, 132-112. I still see the post game.
Ooh,
I'm being nice to NBC Sports Washington and leaving that on. So at least a cable box has that on somewheres in the DMV. But it's definitely rough for sure. All right, let's get into this Nashville game because I think C4 went to that one as well. It's unfortunate.
I was there.
3-2 loss. In the first period, they scored first, but the Cookie Monster ties it up again. He's got a knack.
And we were walking on sunshine.
Yes, and Connor Sherry with the assist at 17th of the season. Dmitry Orlov pots his 10th assist of the season. So, I was looking at stats, and we have more 20-point plus scorers on our team than any other team in the league. We're tied for number one in that stat. So it's just nice to see how many people have reached the 20-point threshold across the team. And it's, just to have 10 assists from any defenseman is great. We have multiple ones, with a lot of assists. So it can't be overlooked. And then a horrible turnover by Abi Cobell, and then he scores. So then I'm like, get this guy off our team, and then of course he scores again. I'm like, like, God damn it! Like, it's just like it's very frustrating player, but then he still scores, and an important one to tie it, right? But unfortunately, in the third, at the end of the game, Ryan McDonough he's a tank, and it's just if you don't handle him just right. And I get that it was a defensive lapse as well in some ways, but it was a very pretty goal, and it's hard to get him when they're moving like that to stop him. Yeah. And he had a bunch of games. I mean, it was his first goal of the season. He's had a bit of a rough game, going of that. So
they gave him first star of the night, I guess, because he had the game winner.
Yeah, it's
that game. So the one thing I notice a lot of times when we're tied in the third, and I don't know if it's just our team or if I'm just noticing it because I'm focusing on the Caps, is we tend to play like we're going to go to overtime and not to win the game. Like within the last 5 minutes or so. It's like, guys, this team is not playing to go to overtime. You need to play to win the game. And it gets frustrating. And then
they played the night before. They have zero interest going to overtime. In this Carolina game against the Predators, that game was nuts. I wanted to pull up the stats, but it was 64 saves for the Predators, goaltender in that one. 64 saves.
Yeah.
They won 5-3 against Carolina, but they played Carolina the night before, and so they want to get out of this thing.
And I mean, I know Nashville only had 21 shots on goal, and we had 32. But you gotta, but again, it's like in the third period, we outshot them 11-4 in the third. But it's like, guys.
Yep. It just takes that one. But we're both teams on a back-to-back. I think that we were gambling to definitely try to win the Columbus game. And if we had to lose the Nashville game, so be it.
I mean,
I'm not trying to get 3 points out of 4. I think going to overtime, they thought maybe,
Well, that's the first game we've lost in regulation since late November?
The Dallas game.
Dallas game, since Dallas. So, I mean, so all things considered, it's not a terrible loss.
It'd be frustrating.
Of course,
you went to the game, so I understand why that's frustrating.
Yeah.
So, Gail, what were some of your thoughts on that one?
It's at least 1 point they could have had. C4 is correct. They did not play to win. They played to go to overtime, and this is what happens when you do that. And we discussed this in, I don't know if you've caught it yet, but we've discussed it. This is our feature game in the podcast. We discussed
I
it, so we
just
discussed
got
it
to
in
this part of the podcast. But you
some
can-
detail.
Yeah.
And yeah, the approach of the game was just not good. And I'll leave it at that for right now. But yeah, it cost them, obviously. And it is frustrating because whenever you think they've learned the lesson, they have to relearn it. And I guess they're going to keep on having to relearn it. But I need to start seeing. I think we all need to start seeing that sense of urgency from this team, because again, there are a lot of games that are coming up in the next 3 weeks where there really isn't much excuse for them to not come away with 2 points in those
Right.
games.
Yeah, this is
Yep.
the quote unquote easier part of the schedule, which is why I think that they tried to bring Nicholas Backstrom and Tom Wilson, back into this, time period,
Right.
because this is the opportunity where they can try to work out some of that rust and against some divisional foes as well. That's going to be my segue. You can see I got the Wilson and the Backstrom. I was very excited about his return. C4, the opening of this hockey segment, talked about how loud the crowd's reaction to it was. I thought it was a very smart decision to put out a starting line that wasn't actually a line in the game, right? Which is, it's rare to see that. Usually the line that you put out there is actually the line that you're going to be running in the thing. But just to have that ceremonious, line together of Ovechkin with what he's been able to accomplish over these last couple of weeks, and then the return of these two great players. And I love that they pushed each other to get fit during this time. They were able to rehab together. And Tom Wilson has talked many times about how he really looks up to Nicholas Backstrom. And, he's one of his kind of mentors on the team.
Yeah. Nikki's a lot tougher than people give him credit for.
Yeah, he had a hell of a hit in this game.
Mhm.
And he was pretty feisty. And he even played in the power play, which I didn't expect in the first game back, to be totally honest.
I don't, they didn't, I don't know how many minutes they each played, but they
were in, the both of them were in for just over 14 minutes each.
Yep.
Both of them.
14:03 for Backstrom and 14:10 for Wilson.
Okay, so not bad for the first game. That's about what I would have expected.
Right.
I would have been shocked if it was more than that. So good.
They did some interesting line deployments in this game to make that
Yeah,
happen,
they did.
right? So there was a lot of changing throughout the game. It was kind of hard to even see what they're going to eventually settle in on. I think that they were just trying to get them some time, but also I think that creates some choppiness a little bit in the game, and I think it ended up screwing up their momentum a little bit. They also allowed for 38 shots against, so we have to give Darcy Kemper the kudos. I love that there's still, Gil, we talked about how there wouldn't be a goalie controversy anymore, right? When we were like so excited.
Yeah, right. But at least this time it's not that we have two, not that Sammy and Vanacek were bad, but we have two actually really good goalies.
Right.
So
but it's still not according to some people on social media. Some people would like you to believe that Darcy Kemper isn't the real deal, even though he's had 4.
Well, so one thing I've noticed with Kemper, and I actually didn't notice it till somebody else pointed it out. If you watch the two of them play, if you've got a play coming down the ice and someone shoots the puck at Darcy and there's still room between him and the play coming down the ice and he has the puck, he'll tend to hold on to it instead of kicking it out to the side. There's safe space, he could kick it out to the side or whatever. Lindgren will do that. He'll stop it and kick it out so play can continue. Darcy tends to hold on to it a little more. Now he was kicking it out more last night, I noticed, but there are times he tends to think, they're getting too close, I better hold on to it, but he really does have time to kick it out. So that's and apparently he did that in Colorado last year, which I didn't notice because I didn't watch a lot of Colorado games, but the other thing, my other
good early in his career, and then he had a bit of a dip, and then the team played great defense in front of him, and then people expect him to be like amazing with when our defense is porous at times, right? Where a lot of the goals that we can track back to him giving up
are defensive lapses.
I mean, he makes mistakes as all goalies do, but
so does Lindgren.
Yeah, exactly. But somehow the fan base really likes our backup more than our starter. And I don't understand when they have nearly identical numbers.
Yeah, I like them both a lot. I mean, like I said, my biggest concern with Darcy Kemper was his age. At 32, the body just starts slowing down. I mean, it does what it does, but he has not been playing like he's 32.
But maybe the idea is we sign both of these guys and then they flip flop roles. Like now he's the starter, and then but later in his career, you can sort of
Yeah,
finagle.
well, how old's Lindgren?
He's younger for
I know he's
sure.
younger.
I don't know.
I think Lindgren 26. I want to say 27.
Okay. So yeah, so maybe it's a thing
He's
where
29.
29. Okay, so he's not much younger, but still younger.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm happy with both goalies. I love them both. I think I think we have, if there is such a thing, a good problem with our goalies right now. So put it to rest, let it go.
Yeah, I don't get the hate for Kemper. I really don't.
No,
I don't understand it. These have got to be people that are not watching the games. They're not watching the whole game or enough of the game. They are sitting back and cherry picking and watching highlights. So I'm going to be nasty here. These people that go on social media and criticize Kemper, they're not real hockey fans. They're not even Caps fans. They can't be.
Yeah.
No, if they don't understand the logistics.
Kemper by himself has more shutouts in his first year than Sammy and Vanacek did
combined
their whole time.
Well, what is it? It was his 29th shutout of his career or something.
Yeah.
I think last night. So, I mean, there aren't many goalies that have 29 shutouts.
Yeah, he's a real starting number one, and I'm happy that Charlie had a chance to get 5 in a row and show in case what he can do too. So I'm happy with both of them, but I felt like it had to be talked about because it's constantly on Capitals message boards, at least on Facebook.
It's everywhere.
It's terrible, but you are always going to have that small group of fans that's loud enough and makes a stink whenever there's one mistake that's made. Like they're supposed to be 100% perfect. I mean, my God, it's like I said before. Unfortunately, we've got an element in our fan base that is so spoiled and so used to the Capitals winning games 6-0 and 6-1 ever since Alex Ovechkin started playing for this team. And I really wish, I mean, that's why, Robbie, that's why you and I do these shows, or at least one reason, to try and kind of educate people, not weed out that element, but at least make fans better and smarter. And I'm sorry, it frustrates me to no end when I see things like that.
I wish that those sort of people would make it 45 minutes through my show. Like those are the people that want the quick cut highlights and the quick sound bites. Like they would never, like, I always feel like I need to clip this up and send it to them, but like it's very frustrating for sure.
Sit through a whole game and then come back to me and complain if you see something worth complaining about.
Right. Yeah.
And there's going to be some games that are worth complaining about. We're not saying they're immune from it, but it happens much more than it should. I mean, both of these goalies have nearly identical numbers. Like, I mean, they make it seem like one has some statistical advantage, and they're both good. I mean, they're not like the top of the league, but they're very serviceable, and we're able to score enough. They keep it to around 2, and we're able to score around 3 most games.
Right. And they're exactly. Well, the biggest thing too, the best part about both of them is they're consistent. They're going to make mistakes and they may have a bad night, but they are consistent in their performance. You know what you're going to get out of them. It's not like Sammy, who one night is like beast mode, and then the next night he's freaking picking daisies when the play's at the other end of the ice. So you know what you're going to get with these guys, and that I like a lot. And I think a lot of that comes with because they're older than Vanacek and Sammy too. They were both very young goalies, so I like where we're at with the goalies. Again, I was concerned about Darcy's age. He has proven me most wrong. And so I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Well, this segment has been great, but I do know we're going to talk a lot of other segments tonight. So I'm going to just quickly go over the upcoming schedule, and then I'll let you guys kind of address the two teams that we're talking about, and then we'll get you guys out of here. I appreciate all the time that you've given to this show. I think it's been a great recap so far. So upcoming, we've got two games against Philadelphia. We're starting at Philly on Wednesday at 7, and then the rematch in Washington on Saturday at 7. And so that's all the games that are in between. And then next week we're doing a watch along. So I doubt both of you guys, I'm sure, will be watching the game. But I might have Anna on to join me live as we talk about it as it's happening. And then we'll recap these Philly games. C4, what are your thoughts on Philly and the Islanders?
I think Philly's going to be well. Philly's always tough for us. It doesn't matter whether they're playing the best in the league or the worst in the league. I think we're going to split this one. I do think we have the potential to get 3 points out of the two games, but I do think we're going to split it. We tend to play Philly better at home than we do in their barn, but I think we'll end up with I
think we'll probably win one, lose one, but anyway. But
yeah, I think we'll split. I think we'll probably lose. I'm thinking we'll lose in overtime. I'm hoping we'll lose in overtime and get away with 3 points. I'd like to get 3 points. The Islanders, have we played them yet?
It's been a long time if we have.
I don't think they have. This year, I don't think they have.
Yeah,
Doesn't look like no.
So
they haven't.
I'm on the fence with the Islanders. I mean, they've got nearly an identical record to us. They're 22-17-2. So
we haven't played either of the New York teams up until like recently. It's strange.
Yeah, I mean, usually we play pretty well against the Islanders, and I think we can. I think we'll win that game, but it's going to be close. But the two Philly games, I think we're going to split those. But I'm hoping to come away with 3 points instead of only 2. You went mute.
Yeah, no, I know. I was talking to Tim. I didn't want to. Neville's trying to attack us, so we're trying to defend our fortress from the meowing.
Gotcha.
So, anyway,
all right.
But Gil, your thoughts on Philly and the Islanders?
I would agree with C4. We're going to probably split those, even though I on paper there's a very good chance we can come away with all 4 points, and that's preferable. I think they can do it, but Philly's not the team they were to start the season. I think they finally started to gel. They have a true first line now. So if we've got more firepower to be sure, and I think the same is going to go for the Islanders. If it gets into a game where it comes down to offense, then yes, the Caps will win. But again, it's going to be how they approach the game. I'm going to add this as kind of an elephant in the room that we've all avoided talking about. I think part of the reason why the Caps had so much trouble getting going offensively is who they've been missing these last few games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's somebody who wears number 74, John Carlson. People forget that he can be a big catalyst for the offense, and he's very, very good at slowing the game down when it needs to be slowed down. And
I'm happy to hear you say good things about John Carlson.
Well, I mean,
it makes me just happy.
Okay. So I mean, I've come to realize what he's worth, but unfortunately, I still think he is a liability at the worst possible times on defense. So unfortunately, I just can't see.
It's a good opportunity to see what we got without.
Well,
him, right?
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But he drives the offense in a big part, and I like that, but I don't like that he's gone, and I don't know. I'm kind of dreading the consequences of that, but I think the Caps have enough firepower, at least on paper, to carry through these 3 games at least.
I just want to give listeners, sort of a history of the Flyers since we're playing them twice. They went and did that LA swing, or the California swing, the Anaheim, LA, San Jose, and they were able to score 4 on all 3 of those teams and allow 3 in the Sharks game, 2 in the Kings game, and 1 in the Ducks game, right? And then went to Arizona, won 6-2. They were actually able to take care of business on that one, unlike our team. And then we know the type of team that Buffalo is, and I think the Flyers, they just beat them. Yeah, so that just went final. It went final literally as I was watching it. So they were able to win that one 4-0 over the Sabres, right? So they are definitely a pretty decent team, and they should not be overlooked. They did have a loss to Toronto 6-2 on Sunday, but you can sort of see how they rebounded from that. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of put that in people's mind as we're going to.
Yeah, I think the Flyers are kind of similar to Buffalo in that they are starting to get stronger, and they're going to come at you, and you just need to be ready. You know, they're coming for you, and Torts we all know how Torts coaches, and you get a team, he gets a team behind him, and they're going to be hard to stop. I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at the standings, so I'm not sure where exactly they are in the standings, but
they're still
in 7th place. So they're still down near the bottom.
They're not scraping the bottom anymore.
No, but they have, I think, like the Bills, they have opportunity to play spoiler for a lot of people. So, I mean, you really they're going to be a team to watch. You're going to have to be careful with them. You know,
I agree. They're at 39 points, and Pittsburgh, who holds the last wild card spot currently, is at 46.
Yeah. I mean, and the Islanders are right behind them. So, but they've got a couple games in hand.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just 4 wins, right? So it's not a huge difference for sure.
No.
All right. Well, I've kept you guys for the hockey hour. I think that we have just about hit an hour, and I appreciate you both. I definitely think people should go check out Gil's podcast for a lot more. They had a long one this week with 2 special guests. Gil,
it was a good one too.
Who you had on the show, and then we'll let you go.
Oh, we had actually two first time listeners appear, or first time guests up here who have been listeners for a while. Someone who was a friend and acquaintance of Anna's, and the other gentleman was someone we decided to bring on we're doing a special spotlight on local businesses for the remainder of the year. So we just decided to have him come on and verbally plug that. And he wanted to stay and talk about the team as well. So he decided to stay for the whole episode. So that's who we have on this week. Anna's friend Becca and Mr. Patrick Kirshner, who oddly enough has his own voiceover business. So we decided to have him on, verbally plug that appropriately enough. Guys actually work with he's actually worked and coached with Wes Johnson. So that was pretty awesome, I thought.
I like that Wes Johnson did a post today about he was at the season ticket holders party.
I saw that.
A mask on and a hat on, and he was like incognito, which I thought was hilarious. So we're a big fan of Wes Johnson. In fact, he does the opening, if you listen to the audio version of this podcast for this show. And I've always been a really big fan of his. But people should go check it out. Again, SportsOTHP.com. Click the podcast partners button. And under that, you can click on the Power Play Point podcast, and it is there. Also, you can go check out on the I have to get Gil on our website at one point, but Anna's on her bio she's Team Sports OTHP. Under her bio, they have the link for the Facebook group and all the other social medias for the Power Play Point podcast as well. So lots of different links there. I hope that people go check out the Facebook page as well. And I will give a quick little shout out to Carly already did to Gil with all the links in our chat. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Gil. And
Thank you.
C4, thank you so much for stepping in very last minute. But it was really
My
fun.
pleasure.
And you went to so many great games. So I'm happy we got to document some of those on
Yeah.
today's show. And Ovechkin is climbing is the 809 right now, I believe.
809.
He's on that chase. So we'll continue to document as he scores more goals. But it's cool that he's the second greatest goal scorer of all time now. Things that we could not say in the last
Yes.
episode of this show. So
It's true.
it's a very exciting
Yep.
time. So thank you both for being a part of this extra long, hour-long hockey segment. And we'll
Pleasure.
talk to you soon.
Yep, you're quite welcome. Enjoyed it.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
All right.
All right.
All
Bye.
right, we're gonna
Right.
switch gears here to some football talk. And we've got Champ already in the house, and we're gonna bring in Arun if he wants to talk about it. We'll also bring in Tim in a few minutes to talk about the NFL in general. We also have another guest. So there he is, Arun. And we have another guest we're going to bring on in just a second. He does his other show on Twitch, and it was a last minute add-on. I'm so happy he's on. He's watching a little bit of this football game, and I'll let him watch a little bit more of it while we talk Commanders, but then we'll bring him in. Yeah, well, he'll give us the scoring update. If you're watching on Twitch live, we do have a scoreboard. It is a 52-7 game currently. We're not listening to the audio.